Welcome to the Soul Sisters series, where you'll get thought-driven, inspiring topics for your soul with Vaughn Solis and Brenda Rachel. So welcome again to Soul Sisters, another surprise episode, and we have a couple more coming your way. I'm Vaughn. I'm Brenda. And together, we are the Soul Sisters. I keep saying we never get tired of that, but we only do that for you guys. Okay. So, as said, this is a bit of a surprise episode. And today we're going to be actually talking about soul healing. And that is like a big topic, sis.
It is.
And I'm going to explain a little bit how our decision to do an episode on this topic for you came about. But I also want to say that it's going to be different for everybody. I'm not sure, sis, if there's a lot of work done on this. There probably is in like sort of spiritual gurus. And if you go and look for it, there will be work on it. Mm-hmm. But just in my everyday travels and, you know, in the business world and looking for podcasts and things like that, I'm not really coming across this material. And so this is another huge reason I wanted to do Soul Sisters with you, Seth, is because you and I love these topics.
We do.
And as we've mentioned in the previous, basically 9 episodes, building a story for you to tell how we arrived at being spiritually evolved on our mission, living our purpose-driven life, coming from completely different circumstances, personalities, experiences, everything, yet we still arrived at a similar place spiritually. Hence, we are the Soul Sisters.
Exactly.
Real life sisters, but also very much soul sisters, which I think the older we got, we really came to respect that, didn't we?
Yes.
Because we're very different.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so I'm not going to lie, you know, we've had our differences over the years, but we made a decision, I would say a couple years, 2-3 years ago, maybe before the pandemic, I don't even know. And at the time of this recording, we're at spring 2024, just to let stupid stuff go and just respect our journey, our purpose, our being, recognizing just because we're sisters, we don't have to be the same.
Right. Right.
And that's a huge lesson.
Yeah.
And like, I don't know how many sisters are out there. And, you know, mostly I'm going to just say sisters, because with brothers, it's completely different, that sort of want or expect their sister to be just like them. Or if they are, you're too much like each other. And, you know, so getting to that point where you recognize the individuality and we're here for our own lessons, our own reasons, experience through our own way. And then if you can just share and have that trust with your sister, and even though like you may not really know exactly what I'm going through and vice versa, we still respect and honor that and find a common ground to kind of go, hey, but I think I get it because I went through this and maybe it's similar. And even if it isn't similar, just respect it because you never know how long you have with each other, people.
Yeah.
Right?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
You want to add to that at all?
Well, I guess for me, I would just say that I have found since we moved across the street from each other, that's when I felt sort of a kinship, a closer kinship, because our proximity in real life, was closer, even though we don't live on each other's doorstep.
No.
But I also, from my own personal growth and going through my journey with writing my second book, which was all about my personal journey, it helped me really understand why I was here, and also what my purpose was, And even though I'm not really sure, you know, I don't have the answer as to even what a soul is or all that kind of stuff, but I just feel very, very blessed that I'm learning what I'm supposed to do here each day, even when I'm in my own crisis and my own emotional upheaval, which I'm in right now with illness and stuff going on with chronic fatigue and anxiety.
And I'm just going to pop in really quickly here because part 6 of our series speaks specifically to the illusion of pain and understanding that suffering really is an illusion, but when we're human and suffering, that contrast and how to live with that. And that episode has been released on April 24th, 2024, and it is the part 6 of Soul Sisters. So if you do want to learn more about that struggle, and the reason I jumped in is because you're saying you're going through that right now again.
Yeah.
And that talks all about the perfection we expect ourselves to be, because knowing that spiritually that we are perfect, full and complete inside, but then if your human body isn't demonstrating that, or your experiences are showing you, no, I'm kind of like suffering, and I'm kind of struggling, and I'm kind of drowning here. You know, how do you keep that focus? How do you live that truth regardless? So check out that episode, part 6 of the Soul Sister series. So yeah, and I also just want to say to the audience, it was very sort of kismety how you moved in across the street. And very cool. And we are, I'm I've entered my late 60s, and sis here, you want to say how old you are? 70. Yeah, she's 70. And so it took us a while to sort of appreciate everything I said in the beginning of this episode. And, you know, when circumstances kind of make things happen and they're out of your control, sort of, it just, wow, all the doors just open, and it's like, I think I'm meant to do this. So we're respecting and honoring that also, that we have physical proximity now to each other, which makes getting together easier, more fun, and for her, you know, and just respect and enjoy that for however long that lasts, because we never did this before in our life, live as neighbors.
No, and I also think too, like making the decision to share our work, and from the two totally diverse, polar opposites, what we are physically, but also where we came from spiritually and how that evolved.
Oh, yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So, and then to want to do the work and bring our own experiences and finding the similarities in all of that.
Yeah, that was so cool. So Brenda's rooted in disability, physical disabilities. I'm largely rooted in child loss, so bereavement, the suicide arena. I lost my daughter to suicide in July 2005 at the age of 22. And so I've not experienced physical disabilities, and you've not experienced child loss, but yet we came to find, as you just said, sis, all these wonderful sort of epiphanies, and go, wow. And so for me, I think it just means, and we're getting to the soul part, is as souls, and even when you said earlier, well, you don't know what a soul is. I don't know what a soul is. Is it color? Energy? Like, I don't know. But everybody talks about soul, don't they?
Yeah.
And, you know, and if you don't feel anything, you're soulless. And, you know, and if you're broken, you're you know, your soul is sick, and, you know, all these things. So soul is something. But I guess if we looked at it as that, okay, I'm just going to say some kind of energy, some kind of presence, some kind of force, some kind of something that as spiritual beings, I look at it as sort of the soul as just a tapestry. And I wrote about this in Divine Healing, my first book. It came to me as a tapestry, and that each incarnation was just sort of a little tiny patch of it until it kept getting bigger and bigger and bigger. And, you know, and it builds this picture towards what I don't know, but I've come to understand it in the spiritual sense in my practice, my personal practice, that each incarnation I've chosen to learn more and more lessons to perfect the experience on earth. And when I've perfected, which perfection, I think to me, is consciously becoming aware of what those lessons are, number one, and why I've chosen them, number two, and then getting them and living them and resolving the lesson. Because when we've got our lesson, we don't deal with that struggle anymore.
Sure.
And I would wager all lessons come through some kind of struggle, would you say? I mean, how would you know it's a lesson if you're not in some kind of pain over it?
Well, exactly. Yes.
Or illness, or,
you know, some kind of negative something or other.
Right.
Yes. Whether it's struggle, like you say, pain, conflict,
suffering, like whatever. And so I believe that they come to us in different lifetimes through themes. And I'm going to tell you a little bit about that if I remember. Write that down, Vaughn. Themes, because that's very, very important. Soul themes. When we awaken, we may start and hopefully do start to see a theme, a pattern running through our life of certain kinds of experiences, or in your case, several disabilities. So disability, okay. You have a life where disability is forming a huge, I'll just say backdrop for a lot of what you're going to be experiencing. Right. Mine ended up being bereavement and suicide. And so while the child loss thing, thankfully, is not reoccurring, I hope I've only had to experience once and nothing ever happens to my surviving child, my son. But some people do lose more than one child, and they need to find out what's going on in their life to do that. But we grew up with a suicidal parent, and I, for the first time, spoke very publicly about how that impacted me as a child in a divine healing coaching episode, my principal one on self-responsibility. And I speak about that there. So the suicide, I could immediately see when Janaea took her life in 2005. Oh my God. Well, Mom's several attempts already had that context. Like that context isn't the word I want, but already had that knowingness of suicide. It was just a constant in my blood, my bones, my DNA that it could happen. That doesn't mean I thought it would happen. Certainly not to a child of mine, but it did. And that's when I was able to start to put the pieces together, even more so of seeing how the suicide, even more so than the child loss, although that's been really, really impacting. But the two together formed, for me, a blueprint to get my lessons, which I'll be quite honest, and this is why we're talking about soul healing today, became very clear for me, very clear. I was, as you probably remember over the last couple of years, maybe a few years, but kind of understanding. I know that suffering is an illusion. So why am I here? Well, I know I also don't want to get trapped in it. So my work rooted right back to 2006 that, culminated in divine healing, transforming pain into personal power, speaks all about that and rising above it. But as, rising above it and going, okay, well, no matter what's happened, I can still be happy. I can have a great life. Okay. And okay. And so, but you and I have had many conversations about this. Right. And I'm just going to offer here, even if you know this, and sis, I'll get your thoughts on this. Even if you know this, okay, like I just said, and I won't repeat it, and then you still struggle with it. So, but that lesson doesn't really kind of go away. It's sort of there. And once you're awakened, by the way, you can't go back to sleep. Spiritually awakened, you cannot turn that off. But that struggle, that contrast, that conflict, right? The dichotomy, it actually could be one of the greatest things that we as humans are here to figure out in this planet Earth.
I absolutely agree with you.
I have come across many writings over the years where spiritual leaders, in various, writings really talk about this is the toughest place to come to get our lessons.
I absolutely. Well, not having any conscious memory of my other lifetimes.
Right.
Knowing what I went through there.
Yeah.
I would absolutely say, like, from my own experience.
Yeah.
Yes.
And even the conflict with how absolutely gorgeous this planet is.
I know. I was just going to say, pop in here and just say that with it being such dense energy, like when you look at the globe.
Yeah.
And to me, when I look at the globe or look up at the sky and stuff like that, and I think about what is surrounding, I mean, I don't know anything about what's in outer space other than what I see. But I'm just saying, like, it feels like a shroud almost, like, over Mother Earth. Yeah.
And
it's like, how do we ascend beyond however many millions of miles, we have to go to get into the lightness?
Trillions and trillions.
Because it's
probably not far because it's energy. It's just boom.
Yeah.
Kind of like the veil. So we could think of Earth maybe like almost like the veil.
Yeah.
And I always think of the universe as just infinity.
Yeah.
And it's mind-boggling. So I can't go beyond. It's just infinity. But what I will say is, here's something. So when you lose someone, particularly meaningful, impacting in your life, because we can lose people and we love them, and some deaths are just not as impacting as others, and that's for each one of us to sort of determine. But if you're blessed enough that they come to visit you, I have yet to meet anyone as a parent, as a medium, but a person that is able to have visits, myself included, with my daughter. I've had other deaths where those people do not come to me, but she does, and they look nothing but radiant, and and so I like to sort of think of this infinity and where we go, the afterlife, the oneness, the consciousness. And science, by the way, is starting to research. And I've got an article I'm going to be doing an episode on that. They are looking into the scientific evidence of consciousness existing beyond the body. I've known about this for years, and some scientists actually, and medical doctors and stuff, talk about this in books. But if they're actually taking it seriously enough to kind of go, okay, so ongoing consciousness. So that's kind of how I think about the afterlife, is ongoing consciousness. It could be energy, it could be light, it could be a whole bunch of different things. I don't think it matters what it is. The fact is there's some kind of an existence. And for those of us that actually have our proof, quote, our proof, unquote, with visits, and you just can't deny something so powerful has happened. And my daughter has taught me over the years since 2005 through these visits. And Brenda and I both work with angels. So that yet is another dimension of what I would consider infinity, and a connection and a communication with something we don't necessarily understand, but we are able to do it with that part of our brain that allows us, our consciousness, to rise, right? Whatever. We're not talking about that today necessarily, but I think it is a peaceful, beautiful place. But and so the human body, feels as the human body is what feels like that denseness, and it is dense, all the gunk in us, and then we rise above it, right? And there are people that actually have talked about, they've literally died and hovered over their body.
Yeah.
And then the reason we know is because they did this is because then they come back into the body and oops, they're revived, but they live to tell the story. And those are actual death experiences where a person has died and come back. And I think they're actually changing the terminology around that now instead of calling it near death. So it's kind of interesting. So all of that to say, so the soul in there. So for me, it's kind of like this huge tapestry. And I'm in this experience. We're all in this experience. And we've chosen Earth for our tough lessons. And maybe the contrast, and that's what I want to say, of the beauty of this planet. Man, and the more you get to see it and just like, whoa, is in itself the contrast for our perfection. Mirroring like anything that we see that's awe-inspiring, and like the mountains and the oceans and the color. Well, we can only see color through the physical, and apparently it's supposed to be absolutely different when you can see it. It's not constrained by these eyes and so on. But what I'm saying is that in itself, the beauty of the planet might just be the reminder. I'm just getting this as I'm saying it. The reminder, the daily reminder we can have and enjoy by looking at whatever we look at in nature, anything that brings us beauty that's outside of our physical, experience and people, the planet, and just kind of go, okay, yes, that is my perfection. Because if you think about it, every single thing that works naturally on this planet, and in this planet, in the oceans and so on, it's like a perfection that without one little tiny thing wouldn't work in relationship to everything else that keeps us living and breathing here.
Yeah.
I mean, that in itself is like mind-boggling, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Well, just the harmonious how do I want to say this? The harmonious sort of evolution of how everything has been created on this planet to work in synchronicity with everything. How I kind of see the soul take a computer and whatever makes it work, motherboard of a computer.
Yeah.
And everything, when it's in perfect harmony, runs the computer. And everything is smooth. And an operator on the computer can do anything that they want within the parameters of that computer. But just take it as, say, it was the universe and us operating within our consciousness, that is our soul, which is the motherboard for our consciousness. So every piece fits together, and whatever we're going through in the conscious state, we're feeling, we're here, we are the five senses. And because the soul doesn't respond to the physicalness.
Let's assign it a consciousness, but I believe that we have the freedom and the willpower to connect or not connect to the greater reason we're on this planet, framed in, I got to get this right for my soul. So most people say, so I don't have to come back and do that again. Most people, when they get their lessons that are being tough, they say, I want to get my lessons so I don't have to repeat them. And spiritual leaders will talk about this in books and so on as well. I even say it. You get your lesson. I said it earlier. You get your lesson, you move on. So an example might be financial troubles, like over and over and over and over. And then maybe when you get the lesson that, oh, right, I came here to, heal my fear of money. And then you just trust. And then within that, there's loads of lessons. But just trust the universe is going to deliver and this, that, and the other. And all of a sudden you realize you're living the most abundant life ever. And okay, how can you tell that was one of mine? It kind of was one of mine. But anyway, I'm giving you an example. So that wasn't my purpose driven and my major, like, getting this right, the seeing the and healing my soul, my spirit, but my soul in this lifetime, and to not suffer, because we don't need to suffer. That's the driving force in my purpose for being here. The financial one I just explained about, which I literally really did go through. Okay, and I still remember getting that guy's book. I forget his name, but it was the Abundance book. And you did 40 days and you're going to be wealthy. And so, you try all of these things to not be afraid of money, when the root cause for me was just, I was afraid of money. I had enough, but I was afraid of money for many, many, many years, which I think a lot of people are. And so when I got it, you can feel it and just go, oh, you know what? And it might take a few months and it might take a few years to really trust and just live and breathe the experience of letting go and letting God, as we say, letting the universe, of which money and fear of money doesn't have to be part of it anymore. I can truly, honestly say, when I got that lesson, I remembered it. I remember I was done once and for all. I'm done. But it took me a few years to really learn to trust. And so money was never the problem. Trust was the problem. And so that was a huge lesson for the incarnation. But it is one that I would wager a majority of people go through, whether they address it or not. A lot of people are afraid of money and experience money problems that demonstrate financial problems. And so I don't think there's anything sort of really unique and driving in that for me, but there could be for another person. So that's all I'm trying to say. So I don't think the soul is sitting there going, are you getting your lesson yet? Come on. Are you getting your lesson? No. But it somehow, I think for understanding it, it's when we get the lesson, you tick that one off. So if I truly authentically get and live, not just intellectually understand it, but really I'm living it, I don't need to suffer. And how I would live that is I would be experiencing and presenting as joy as my absolute go-to disposition rather than pain. I don't need to come back and do that. Right. That's how I kind of feel about it. Tick. Yeah. And then there are some people that just never want to come back to the planet. Names shall be not disclosed here. Right? Never.
This is my last trip.
Well, you want it to be last trip.
One-way ticket home.
Like, we don't know that for a fact.
But I'm just saying.
But you're an angel. Right. But even in saying that, and even in saying that, we've done other episodes on that. So I'm not going to talk about, we've done, like, I would say if you would listen to the first, say, three or four of our soul sisters, okay, well, all of them. When, no, but I think it was episode part 3 where we really talked a lot about that struggle, not wanting to be here. And so we're not going to talk about that today. And Brandon, you do love and you can appreciate the planet and all its beauty. Can you not?
Oh, absolutely. I'm not saying that. I know.
She was a rafter and a hiker and all of this stuff. So yes, she loved nature. So we're not talking here at all about disrespecting the planet. In that episode, it was more about knowing you fulfilled or come close to fulfilled what you want to do here. What more is there to do? And then that struggle and dichotomy within those experiences. So, but today, the reason we're sort of, this is kind of long-winded to get to this idea of soul healing, but here's what happened to me recently. So I'm on this journey to actually just do what I said, represent as joy and really, truly, authentically mean it and live it. So where people look at my face and go, my God, you look really happy. I just went out with a friend the other day and she goes, you're glowing. And I went, thank you. Be healthy, because I struggled with chronic illnesses, pesky little illnesses as a result of living with bereavement. So kind of got those under control. And really, but the biggest thing really is not about any of that. It's about losing that idea, giving up that idea culturally that I'm not saying we're culturally taught it, but we feel it, that if we allow ourselves to be happy in bereavement, and certainly certain types of bereavement, so child loss would certainly be one of them. It could be partner loss from a suicide. And, I've actually had a couple of widows on it said, they just felt like they could never get married again and move on, etc. But I can only speak to mine. So in child loss, and it would be more that if I allow myself to be happy, perhaps I didn't love my daughter enough or miss my daughter enough, because that pain, and you'll see this, grief is the, I can't remember what they say, but grief is the, amount of love that we had. So the more you love that person, the more you're going to grieve and suffer because they're now gone. And so I get it, and I think that's actually appropriate for a certain amount of time in bereavement, and for some people that's a lifetime. For me, I didn't want it to be a lifetime. So anyway, just cut to today. It's been a journey, but I'm at a point today in 2024 where I embarked on some acupuncture that deals with Chinese medicine. And so in one of the treatments for me, and I'm going to keep this really high level and brief, and this is where the idea for the soul healing episode came along. I was experiencing because when I get the needles, I kind of go into infinity, and it's kind of bizarre, but I can't help where my conscious mind takes me, and probably tapping into the subconscious and the reason for being here in the soul, and like all of this stuff that's is even kind of a little bit scary, but not really. But, because I don't know what's going to happen when I go to acupuncture. But at any rate, my last treatment, and I'm lying on the bed and, just connecting with my mind, my body. And literally, it just like a movie. I was just getting these one after the other of these faces, and particularly eyes. It kind of mostly was eyes, sort of really beautiful, and they would just meld into just like next one. They would just transition from one to the next, to the next, to the next, to the next. And sometimes I saw a full face, but mostly it was just the different eyes. And I was like, what is going on? And I wanted it to stop because it was becoming a little bit overwhelming. But again, I knew I could handle it. And I understood immediately. Well, not immediately, but I understood maybe this went on for a few minutes. And I maybe understood about a minute or so in, oh my God, I'm seeing I'm seeing my incarnations. I knew that. I knew I was seeing faces, and specifically the eyes of many, 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 many lifetimes that I have lived as a soul. So I remember, so I came out of that, and settled down. And there were a couple times I squeezed my eyes and stop, like I've seen enough, because I was getting actually mentally very, very tired from this experience. And eventually it just petered out and went back to my third eye, which opened, in 2006. And it went back into the eye, and just sort of settled down. And it was sort of like your little movie's finished. And so I remember telling you about it a day or two or later. I came out of there very woozy and just like, oh my goodness. And I did tell my acupuncturist, because, so they can, record what I'm experiencing, with this treatment. Anyway, that I remember telling you, I am here not to just heal me in this lifetime. I am here to heal all of the pent-up pain and suffering from numerous lifetimes that maybe I wasn't able to heal as part of this person, okay, this ripple of the soul that I am presenting as Vaughn in this lifetime. And I've taken on to heal as many of those, lifetimes that I believe do live within our DNA, in our spiritual DNA, if there is such a thing. But I like the sound of that spiritual DNA. That it sound, and listen, is it possible? I don't know. Because I don't really feel like I have control over what I chose. I do have control over what I do with what I chose, but not necessarily with the contract I made for the life as me, little Vaughn, me consciously. You get what I'm saying?
I do.
It's huge. So realizing that, I said to you, we went out for chai, and I said to you, wow, like, we need to do an episode on soul healing. But really, we're doing it just to sort of talk about it. We don't have answers, do we? And just what we think about it. But is it possible that we could heal the pain and suffering of many lifetimes?
Oh, I believe anything is possible. Truly.
And that concludes our episode. Anyway, I guess what it left me with is it's enough to kind of just take on the task, I'll say, of getting as much as you can for this lifetime, let alone piling on stuff from other lifetimes. Yeah. So we're not going to talk about that. We're just going to talk about what we can do for this lifetime that we may feel we have a little bit more ability to manage and get lessons and, and sort of think about soul just related to this one lifetime. What are your thoughts on just soul healing just for this one incarnation? How important is it to you personally? And are you aware of it? And if you were aware of it, how did you sort of connect this lifetime to soul healing?
I didn't. So this was when you brought it up.
Yeah.
Like it was like, okay, that's a good topic.
Yeah. So off the top of your head.
So for me, I guess like what I was trying to say or do an analogy, the angels were, for me, the soul holds every single incarnation I've ever manifested.
Right.
And holds everything I'd ever done, thought, whatever it was, whether I was here as not here, but wherever I was.
So it's like it was a container.
It's like a container, and it holds every way I chose to be a being. Every incarnation, whether it was on Earth or it was somewhere else. I'm not talking just about Earth.
No, I know, but
I'm talking anyway. Maybe
well,
maybe I shouldn't just talk about Earth.
let's just talk about
Let's
Earth.
talk about Earth because I believe it holds absolutely everything I've ever lived as.
And I'll just jump in real quickly because if you're wondering why we're saying let's just talk about Earth, is because I have certainly been around spiritual teachers and in training and stuff for mediumship and things like that, where leaders in this industry do talk about this isn't the only place we can come to.
Yeah.
Okay. And so add that in. It's like
I think there are other galaxies and all that, but let's
for
the sake of what I understand consciously. So anyway, my soul holds everything that I've ever been, done, whatever, holds all of that
right.
somewhere deep inside of me. And so when we talk about soul healing, not only is it a very, very huge topic
Yeah.
to talk about, but even to comprehend.
I know.
It's because I think that it takes a great deal of understanding, and I don't understand. All I can say is I think it's this core essence of me that holds everything I've ever been, so.
Here's a question for you. Because when you were saying that, I'm kind of thinking, and by the way, there's no comparisons in Incarnations. It's like, you have your lessons, I have my lessons, you all have your lessons, whoever's watching this or listening to this.
Yeah.
None, we respect it, whatever. But I think for me, awakening to that a couple weeks ago, it was like really big.
Yeah, as soon as he said, what a great topic, soul healing, for us to talk about. And I went, yeah, it is. And then I went, well, I understand about healing, but I don't know anything really about the soul. And so like that I want to come across that I'm sort of like not an expert, but that I didn't have any knowledge because I really don't. I've never
Either do I.
I've never really talked with anybody about what the soul is. I can only say what I believe in my conscious mind that it is. So it's this vessel, or this part of me, this inner workings inside of me that holds everything that I've ever been, done, seen, whatever.
Yeah.
And to heal it at this time on this planet, my consciousness absolutely accepts that this is a possibility, but I think that it takes a great deal of understanding the issues that I want to heal, that I feel really need to be healed, or that don't have haven't just been a part of teaching me something when they happened to show me the bigger picture. You know what I'm saying? That something actually needs to be healed, as opposed to something that was a teaching tool. Okay. So there's a vast difference between healing and just having a learning experience. The biggest issue that I'm having that I would love to heal within my soul is why I keep creating situations of ill health. Okay. And I already understand the ramifications of ill health and been there, done that numerous times. Why again, with all of this knowledge, this spiritual awareness and an intrinsic belief system that I live by, is this happening all over again? So first of all, getting mad with myself that I had once again created ill health. And when I say ill health, it's not I'm deathly sick or anything like that.
Yeah.
It's just with chronic fatigue and anxiety, the two together are just one feeds the other. And because one is brain and one's body. And so we were talking about this the other day, right? Like about with their mind and our body and how they're absolutely correlated. And then I keep saying to myself, beating myself up and saying, what lesson haven't I learned? And so maybe it's not about any kind of a lesson, because I keep looking for all of the lessons that I still need to, I need to open a book and go to page 55. And on this page, deal with how you coped with this in 1996 or whatever. You know what I'm saying?
Here's a question for you then. Why do you still think that you have lessons? Because maybe we do reach a point in our incarnation and our knowledge and our wisdom where we've gotten them all. And maybe I did. And that's why I awakened to this huge, what do I call it? It's more than a task, contract. So I'm going to say two things. So maybe you don't need to look for the lessons, because maybe what you've done and how it all has culminated for you, because you're living by and large, I think, are you living comfortably? And
oh yeah.
So to look for the lessons.
But I'd say it's not that. It's, I think for me, what I'm trying to get at is that I feel that I failed spiritually. And so that there's something that I'm missing right in the puzzle.
Well, maybe you are. Maybe
you
are.
Yeah.
If you're feeling it, you're feeling it.
Yeah.
And so I want to come back. I want to circle back to that. So if you're feeling it, you're feeling it. So scratch that. Maybe you're going to come into a higher awakening, like I just did. And here's what I just got writing it down. I know some of you watching this or listening to this might, at this point kind of go, yeah, I don't think so. And I get that. And so be patient with us. If you're just, all we're doing is offering some stimulating conversation here as we try and figure stuff like this out ourselves. But it came to me, they gave me a message, whether it was the angels or my daughter, as you were talking, and just said, my healing that I am going to experience, right? Because there's a part 2 to this story, is going to heal it for all the incarnations. I don't need to do any more. It's like a one shot deal. And I just feel like with that, yes. So if I took on the task, the contract of, okay, you're going to go through the most, painful suffering, that whether you've experienced this in other incarnations, you're not remembering that. You're not remembering that. You just only know what you're going through in this lifetime. And everyone can attest to that. When we come to this planet, and when we even, come into a spiritual awakening, we don't remember everything else, which is why a lot of people go to past life regression and try and tie, well, I was a this, and that's why I'm experiencing this. And I think those connections are really, can be really, really helpful. This is something completely different. So I choose to have a child, my only daughter, whom I loved absolutely dearly, like my son. I came to the planet also to experience motherhood. This is going to be my sort of like role. My most important role as a mother. I love my children. Just love them. And all you mums out there that feel the same, you get what I'm saying. You die for them. And then lose one or more. But in my case, one, and poof, the world explodes. And like, what the hell just happened and why? So speaking to did I get all my lessons? Did I get all my lessons? But at the same time, so years later, almost 19 years later, this is I'm going through transformation. And as fate would have it, I'm embarking on an extended trip to Southeast Asia in December. Never thought I would go there again. And it's like a pulley pulling me along, and I've got to go. Okay. And some of the places I'll be traveling have a huge respect and honor many different religions, Buddhism, Muslim, Christian, and where else? Anyway, some and a few others, but the main religions. And so I have no idea what I'm going to be embarking on that trip. I just know, and I've been saying, I just have to go.
Yep,
I have to go, and I'm not. Well, my husband's going with me, and I have no idea quite when we're coming back. We don't quite have a ticket home yet, but we're leaving in December, early December, and I really feel that is connected to this epiphany of this massive healing. So what I'm saying is, so now I'm looking at it like, wow, girl, it wasn't just about you and just healing you after Janaea died. It's about taking on the healing for many, many lifetimes where you went through this before in different ways. But certainly, I know I was a bereaved parent many other lifetimes because I saw that with training with James von Prague in 2015, and he took us through past life, and that was pretty interesting for me. So I get it. It doesn't mean it's easy, and I understand it, but I do get it's like, I get it. Okay, but now how? Now how am I going to do this? So I'm just letting myself be guided. So that's kind of what I wanted to say, tied into you going, well, page 55.
Yeah.
Did I get that lesson? Well, maybe if you just kind of, just don't worry about that. Just trust that if and when you're supposed to answer for more, because I think a lesson is calling us to answer for something. And what I mean by that is, in this life, I'm going to go in and here's what I'm going to attempt. I'm going to attempt to get A, B, C, D, E, and however long the laundry list is. And the more you get it, the more you feel at peace. When we get lessons, we just know we got the lesson, right?
Yeah.
We just know it's complete. We feel changed, transformed, and we get it. But when something is still nagging at us, it's the putting an end to all suffering, and legitimately, not just, I'm done. No, it's legitimately making it okay. My daughter left. I don't get stuck on how, that just said she left me, and I'm okay with that. Like, I'm okay with that. So that's a biggie for me. And for you, it could be the constant disability. I'm not going to speak for you, but what I'm saying is we know those things are still before us, right? But maybe this frustration is just kind of I'm prepping you for something that maybe you're going to have your own epiphany.
Well, I think basically, yes, as I was mentioning to you, that the angels just gave to me, like everything is in divine order.
Mm-hmm.
And so when I understand that I contracted to be here and go through the experiences that I did, and have had an extremely wonderful spiritual development and unfolding, yes, through grace and gratitude and everything that I can think of with the angels' help. I don't think for me it's about needing to have a whole bunch of other lessons. I think it's more of accepting where I'm at, and just saying that you don't, because I have felt, I guess, through everything, all the gifts I've been given and wanting to help people, yes, that there's something going through this, that I'm supposed to be learning something else to give a gift to other people. And maybe it's just accepting that I'm where I'm at and everything is in divine order, and I don't need to be looking for the next thing I need to do for others, and just be consciously in a place of gratitude that I'm just at peace where I'm at, instead of like, okay, well, maybe I'll get some other wisdom or knowledge or tidbit that I need to share in some other way out there with other people and stuff like that. So,
and that, folks, right there is getting a lesson.
Yeah.
Right, as you're talking. And sometimes we get the lesson just talking. The other thing I just want to briefly say, so I want to say about lessons is when we're struggling, so for me it could feel, I've struggled with a pretty big lesson for many, many, many years that my sister helped me with, and I won't publicly speak about it, but when I finally get it, and it has to do with other people, you can't change other people. You can only change what you are wanting to experience inside.
Yeah.
But the important thing to get when you feel like it's a losing battle, you've heard it, it's a losing battle. Okay. When you feel like there's just something like what you're saying. So living with this chronic fatigue is, anything remnants of the fibro. I had another issue like that where I was at my wit's end, and I had done everything. What am I not getting? What am I not getting? What am I not getting? It became more about you're getting everything you need to for you. But the critical piece for me in that situation is because you can't change other people. So if you're living in a situation where lessons have to do with another person or people, and they're not getting it for them, then, you know, and you and I have talked about this as well. So just speaking very generally, then you have to really understand, well, why you're staying in the situation. And if you do have if you do have the means to make a choice to not stay in a situation and you're choosing to stay, know your reasons why and understand you've done enough for you. So I think what I'm really trying to say is and you can use that as an analogy still for a disability and not being able to do, you can't make fibro go away. Right. You can't change another person. Right. So understanding and accepting, well, these are all the reasons this relationship needs to be saved or nurtured. And I've done all I can. So in order to be in this relationship or be in these relationships or be in this situation or live with this disability, it's out of my hands. I will then, it becomes really more a change of consciousness and how we're going to approach it, how we're going to live with it, understanding why we're making those decisions. Again, if it's something that you can change, but you are choosing not to, why you're choosing not to. And in the case of something like disability, illness, where you simply just have to accept it. Yeah. And then understand that it's okay. It's okay that it's that way. Yeah. I will let you speak more a little bit to that. We're getting to the top of the hour and we're not going to go on and on and on about this. But
no, I think what I want to say, I just want to throw in is that I guess basically I felt like I'm a spiritual failure because I'm once again in a disability. And so I'm beating myself up because I feel like I missed something. Yeah. And then I go, but look at all the beautiful gifts that you've been given through your disabilities and, you know, all the work, the beautiful work that you've been able to share with others. And so, like I said, it's a conflict within myself that I should be doing something and promoting something inspirational out there that as a lesson, as a learning tool, like having me have my disability, that I will be given some kind of gift that I can share with others. And I'm just saying that it's just, I just feel like it's just kind of a no-win situation right now because I don't feel there's very much of me to give to other people and to be doing things. Basically, the bottom line was I was given. The angels very succinctly just said everything is in divine order. And I know because I choose to believe that I consciously create everything that happens in my life. And there is no wrong thing happening in my life. Everything is in absolutely divine order. So
I think what I want to just sort of, you know, conclude with here, as I said a few minutes ago, this is more just offering a conversation and just kind of, as I learn about this and think about soul healing and like a huge, it's a huge topic. And like, whoa. Not sure I'm grateful for the awareness, but I think I am. And just like you're sort of kind of in this situation where something's niggling at you, gnawing at you, kind of, is there more? What am I missing? What am I missing? I would say that, look, I'm going to do the best I can with the knowledge I have at any given point in this incarnation. Yeah. And I'm going to be okay with that because, like we've said many times, we're just in a human body. Yeah. And, you know, like, I don't even think our brains, well, they say they don't work at, you know, more than a fraction of our capacity. Yeah. And I actually read many years ago, that one of the reasons that we, you know, sort of can't have more knowledge is because we wouldn't be able to handle it.
Yeah. We wouldn't be able to handle it. With that. I think we're only given anything
right that we can sort of handle. And look at that experience I had in that acupuncture table, and it was so much for me, even just for a few minutes. And I was like, no, stop, it's too much. And eventually it just sort of faded out. So it's you know, it's kind of like the wise master, you know, of the universe, like infinity, kind of going, you just a little bit more, you can handle this, and then, you know, and then you're sort of and then you're back in your body and you're back in your mind and you're kind of going, okay, well, that was like freaking me out. And now what? So, but I can't deny that there is something to soul healing.
Yeah.
And nor can you.
No.
And now you can't either.
Yeah.
So, well, that was kind of interesting.
Yeah, well,
Yeah, and I guess all we can do is just like I said, is be aware of it. And I think that every bit of healing we get in this body, your corporeal, heavy, dense body, however you choose to look at it, which is beautiful in any way on the outside and the inside, right? Any amount of healing we do for ourselves, I believe, does sort of sprinkle it on the tapestry of the soul.
Yeah.
And I think that whatever we consciously awaken in this lifetime, right?
Yeah.
As it says here, automatically heals it for all others.
Exactly.
That are aligned for this purpose.
Right. I totally agree.
Right?
Absolutely.
And they're kind of, saying that to me. So I can feel better, like my responsibility doesn't have to be too big. I just need to heal me, focus on healing me, because that's what I want to do, not because I think everybody should do that, just because I want to do that. And I know it's going to wipe the debt for every other incarnation where one part of me anyway, as this personality, one part of me did not manage to achieve it for whatever reason.
Yeah, and I guess what I just want to close with too is what the angels are telling me is I didn't fail as a spiritual being because I'm going through this yet again, because that's my biggest thing, and that's all comes from ego.
Yeah.
So,
yeah,
it's like if I just stay in each moment and live each moment with the grace and gratitude that I have for being on the planet and having the gifts that I've given to be able to have shared with people and continue to share with people, and just saying thank you, angels, like that I'm still here and I'm able to do this no matter if my body and mind are in physical depletion at that particular moment, but this too shall pass.
And we're going to give Bryn an extra big thanks for being here, feeling completely depleted in energy.
Love you, honey.
Love you too, because it takes a lot sometimes to show up and continue to do work, purpose work, just even to help, a few people out there at this point.
When I would normally be resting on my coach right now.
She would, but she scheduled this in, and we both get, another thing is, we both have said to each other that we get energized when we'll talk to one another and we'll just have a message for one another, and it'll completely turn the energy of depletion, tiredness, fatigue, pain, whatever. We just get completely rejuvenated and invigorated by that higher vibration energy, which even actually expresses in words, doesn't it?
Absolutely.
And so I hope that you've enjoyed this. I'm going to be editing this and going back and going, we said that, interesting, but we'll throw it out there in mostly its complete format, because I believe these words are meant to reach certain people.
I do too.
And we're with you. And so for anybody watching again or listening to this and you want to connect, I have a means for you to connect on my website through a newsletter. Anybody feels that you want to email me, go ahead, Vaughn@VaughnSolis.com. And you have your beautiful website filled with so many inspirational quotes. Humanity with heart. We'll have links below to our websites where you can be directed to all the resources that we offer, our books. And of course, stay tuned for more interesting episodes, because we decided not to stop at 9. We sure did. We liked it so much. And I was like, do we want to continue now? We do. That's why? Because we get really energized. Right? Look at us. We're different. I have a little kind of face now for when I get sort of feels. Look at that cute little thing. Anyway, thanks for watching. Thanks for listening. Together, we are the Soul Sisters.
Love you, Steph.
Love you too. See you next time.
Bye.